Thank you for joining us for AltDev Student Summit. We're pleased to present Brandii Grace. Note that you can submit questions via the moderator links on the live page. We'll address these during the Q&A at the end. And also feel free to join the discussion on Twitter using the AltDevConf hashtag. Without further interruption, I'd like to turn it over to our presenter.
Hello all, I'm Brandii Grace. I have to say this is an incredibly awesome way to do a conference. I'm sitting here, it's cold outside, so I'm snuggled in my blanket on a pillow, laying back and doing a presentation to help all you guys. So this is really awesome. And I want to say a shout out thanks to Heather and Luke for running it. Okay, so unfortunately I do not have a web camera set up, so you don't get to see my beautiful face, or not so beautiful depending on how you think. But this is the first slide to show you who I am. I'm the CEO and the Chief Creative Officer for a brand new company called Transform Entertainment. We specialize in making AAA games for women on the console. My background, I did as it says, degree in computer science. I've been in the industry for almost a decade. I was a scholarship winner for the IGDA's GDC scholarship back in forever ago. And I'm currently their MVP. If you don't know the IGDA, the International Game Developers Association, I highly, highly, highly recommend you look it up. That scholarship helps a lot. It unfortunately doesn't give you money, but it does give you access to major conferences where you can do a lot of networking so you can get the internships that I'm going to be discussing. I've been a designer, director, instructor, and now CEO. So let's get started with this actual presentation. Okay, come on. There we go. So, the Intern Survival Guide. It's amazing how many of my students and friends have taken internships in the game industry and they've just not gone the way they should. The amount of times that people end up spending their pretty much entire internship doing nothing but sitting around surfing the internet and reading webcomics, because quite frankly the companies just don't have time to get you to do what you want or what you need to do. So I found a bunch of techniques to help make sure that your internship shines, and my students and even my fiance have used these techniques to get job offers while they're still in school. So these do work, and these are not just limited to your internship. I'm going to talk about things you should be doing for pretty much the duration of your entire career. Okay. So, what your classes have taught you already, that's good. I'm assuming you're in college if you're an intern, but that's not necessarily the case anymore. The good is that they teach you to jump into something you know absolutely nothing about. Maybe you'd never even heard of differential calculus when you went into that class, but you jumped into it because you needed to and it was the right thing to do. And you work really, 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 really hard when you don't know something. And you can come out knowing more and being better for it. So it trains you to just jump into something head first, work hard at it, and reap good benefits in the end. Because even if you failed the class, it's very likely that you got something out of it as long as you read the materials or went to at least one of the classes and worked hard. Okay, so what they taught you that's not so good. Seeing authority figures as titles and not as people, it's very common, and I know this now from both the student and teacher side of it. People don't tend to think of you as a person that's flawed and has interests and an outside life beyond school, but you are. And it's the same way with your boss. They are a person, and they were probably exactly like you not terribly long ago, so they've just climbed the ladder. They may or may not even know how to be a manager. They may or may not have been trained on managing people. So they're a person, not just a title. And accepting what authority figures hand down, they're making generally their best guess, and this applies to anything from handing down tasks to handing down salaries. They're doing what they think is right, but they are not the end-all, be-all, know-all. Now, some people are very responsive to suggestions, and some people are not. The one place you should definitely have a say in is your salaries and your benefits. So whatever the first offer is, negotiate. Ask for something extra because you're worth it, and they're expecting you to negotiate. So don't just think, oh, you're the authority, so therefore take whatever you say. Oh, there we go. Assume they have your best interest in mind. Some of them really do, but you are not their first or primary concern. The company is, the bottom line is, the project is their first concern. With your teachers, you should be their first and foremost interest, so they have your best interest in mind at pretty much all times, one way or the other. That is not the case here. Some of them will actually try to take advantage of you, and some of them will actually try to help you, but either way, you need to do a bulk of the work. And so the worst thing that you learn in school is someone else is going to tell you what you need to do to succeed. And that's what teachers are there for, to guide you. You need to learn how to do differential calculus. Well, let's start you with arithmetic and then take you to algebra, and then they help you with that. All right, hour one, your first day. Not necessarily your first hour, but it looks cool with the zombie theme. So, meet your boss, maybe. Your point of contact might not actually be your boss. In fact, that's quite common. It may be that you're talking to an HR director. They may not even know who your boss is. And you might just be talking to the producer who's in charge of that particular section of the company, that department. So one of the first things you should do is ask to see a company employee hierarchy chart. If you're at a really large studio, they may have had this already. If you're at a really small studio, they may not even know what a hierarchy chart is. But it's supposed to be a flow chart that shows who is responsible for who and who is responsible for what. Some companies have really flat structures, in which case some of those companies will even be like, oh, nobody's in charge of anything. But then you just really have to fill it out. Somebody's always in charge of something. They just may not be explicitly told, or it's just everybody generally accepted that they're the authority. HR is a really good place to go for hierarchy charts. Failing that, the upper echelons of your company, your boss's boss, one of them, try talking to them. Sometimes senior producers are a good source for this. Ask who is your direct report. Now again, if it's a small studio, they may or may not even know what that means, but your direct report is really the person who will be reviewing your work. So if you're, say, a programmer and you're doing tools programming, somebody requested that that tool be done, and somebody is responsible for overseeing that tool, not its creation, that may be your responsibility or it may not, but somebody has to make sure that that goes in or is being done. That's the person who's your direct report, at least for that task. You may end up with different direct reports over the time frame of your internship. So always know who that is. And ask who's responsible for hiring in your department. You really want to shine to this person. You want to make sure that they really, really like you and like your work, more importantly. Let your boss know you are eager and ready to work. If you have a hiring manager who's different from your direct report or multiple direct reports, think of the Office space. How many different people do you have to submit TPS reports to? Those are all direct reports. Let every one of your bosses know that you are eager and ready to work. If you don't come across as incredibly enthusiastic the first day, then they aren't going to have a good impression of you right off the bat. So don't be fanboyish or fangirlish, but do be like, I'm here, I'm ready to work, I want tasks, I'll do what you need. Get your work done quickly and in high quality. I can't stress this enough. There may be a lax feeling around the studio depending on the aura and the company culture, but you have to be the best. You may or may not be competing with other people, so you have to go in and just do the best that you possibly can as quickly as possible. Some companies underestimate interns, some overestimate. So some of them may give you a project that's going to take 3 weeks to get done and assume you're going to get it done in 3 days because that's what their lead with 10 years experience could do. Others are going to be like, oh, you're an intern. And I know in one case in particular, they gave some students projects that they thought were going to take like 3 months to get done, and they finished in less than 24 hours. So overestimation and underestimation both work. Find out what your find out what your deadlines are and your priorities for your tasks. Make sure you get it done in the highest quality that is relevant within your deadline. Don't miss your deadlines. Priorities are important so that if you see that there are conflicting deadlines or something takes longer than you thought it would or anybody else did, you can immediately take it to your boss and tell them, this is higher priority, but this other thing has a quicker deadline. Which would you like me to focus my time on first? Or if it's a higher priority, it might need more quality assurance in it. So make sure that those things are balanced. Ask about your boss's #1 priority, and that's really important because your #1 priority for your boss may not be your priority for what you're working on. Their biggest concern might be that they haven't hired enough people. It might be that the project's running behind schedule, whatever it is. And you have to be very tactful when you ask them. Just let them know you're asking because you want to help support your boss. That's your real job, to support your boss or bosses, to make sure that their lives are easier. That's the number one thing I can tell you. Your job is to make other people's lives easier on your team and your boss. If you aren't making their lives easier, they have no reason to keep you around. If you're making their lives easier, it's pretty hard for them to let you go. That's what all of this is going to be about. Request to schedule your first mini review. If you're doing an internship 3 months or longer, do it once a month. If your internship is less than 3 months, do it every 2 to 3 weeks. But then you might be wondering, what the heck is a mini review? Okay, so we'll get to this. So a mini review, you may or may not be familiar with the idea of at the end of a year, people do year-end reviews, or at the end of an internship, they'll do exit interviews, which are also reviews. If you wait until then, you're not going to find out what you've been doing right and wrong until it's already too late to do anything about it. So a mini review is really just going in, asking a few simple questions so that you can correct yourself, course correct while you're doing it. So your questions should be, is my performance meeting your expectations? You may be doing a fantastic job on programming some new system or drawing concept art, and then find out that wasn't what they really wanted you as an intern for. They really wanted you to be spending more time with level breakdown or something else. So make sure that what you're doing is the same thing as what they were hoping they would get when they decided to create this internship for you. Ask what you can do to improve. There's almost always, there is always something that everybody can do to improve, and the newer you are, the more obvious it usually is, and they'll tactfully tell you. And here's the key thing about this. Once you find out what you need to improve, you make sure you improve on it, so that next time you can come to the next mini review with, this is the steps I have specifically taken to improve on this thing you told me I need to improve on. That's the key thing. And ask what your greatest contribution is to the team so you can see what you're doing right. But that's the least important question. If your boss doesn't have enough time for mini reviews, ask for just 10 minutes and try and send your boss questions over email. All right, here's the other part. Keep an accomplishments log. An accomplishments log is something that every day, well, yeah, you can't remember what you did 2 weeks ago, try remembering 12 weeks ago. So every day, write down the things that you did that day and that you accomplished. Tasks you completed, tasks that you started, tasks that you maybe improved on, everything that you did. It just has to be like a sentence or a few words. It's to help refresh your memory. And then keep a copy of this in both your personal and work email accounts, and make sure you bring the accomplishments log with you for the mini reviews. I also recommend every 30 days at least, I will email my accomplishments, the highlight, the like top 5 things I accomplished that month, to my boss, and sometimes my boss's boss, so they will see what I am doing. Hour 2. All right, meet your coworkers. Learn their positions, and dear God, learn their names. If you don't know their names, everything else is hard. Learn about your coworkers. What's their specialty? What tasks do they like or dislike? How do they prefer to communicate? What is the best method of working with your boss that they have found? Do they have any great tips for you? They are a wealth of information and experience that you need to tap into, and that's what this is doing. By finding out the things they like, their specialty, and the way they like to communicate, you're finding out how to best work with them on a team. By finding out the best method of working with your boss and tips, you are gaining from their experience. Sorry, this is going to run fast. Make sure you know who you are, or sorry, make sure they know who you are and your position. They may not know that you're an intern for their department. It depends on how big it is. Let them know you're excited to help. Invite them to contact you anytime for assistance, because that's partly what you're there for. As soon as you are available to do tasks, the first thing you do is tell your boss and your coworkers. You let them know you're available. Do not start surfing the internet until you have made sure that your boss and all of your coworkers are more than knowledgeable that you are available to take on more tasks. Post your task list. This is a great thing to do, especially when you get later in your career, but it's good to start. You're going to have 20 different people coming to you at some point saying, I need this, I need this, I need this, and they all need it in 10 minutes. But you have to know what to do first, and people may not come to you, which could be a good thing, if they find out you're too busy already, and they may come to you more if they find out you're not. So your task list should involve the item that you are working on, or that you should be working on, the priority of it, the deadline for it, and the name of the person assigning it to you. Just post this somewhere that's visible, maybe the side of your cubicle or the side of your computer if you don't have one, somewhere that somebody can come up and just add a task to it, whether it's your boss or coworker or someone else. And then if it's someone you don't know about the task, you can go ask them about it and confirm with your boss that it's something you should be taking care of. Start a to-do wish list. This is a great thing to do because there's always going to be tasks people wish they had time to get around to. It doesn't really happen that you get around to it, things like updating documentation, but dear God, life would be simpler if somebody did it. So share this list with your coworkers. Use an internal wiki if possible, some other directory. Everyone can add things to it as it comes around. And then refer to this list when you and others have absolutely nothing to do. When the build is broken, when something else is going wrong, and everybody's sitting around, just pull up this list and there's a ready sitting list of tasks for you to do. If you don't have any tasks to begin with on day one, this is a great thing to start. Let's go around and find out what everybody wants to have done. Hour 3. Meet everyone in the job you want. Okay. Tell them who you are, your position on the team, and if you're on multiple teams, which team you're on, and what you aspire to be in the future. I'm a missions designer. I want to be a lead designer. I'm a tools programmer. I want to go into graphics programming. I'm a level artist. I want to be a concept artist. Tell them. If you have extra time, ask these people. Tell them you are willing to take on additional tasks to get more experience in the area you want. This is the #1 best way you can grow into the job you actually want because you're already working on it. Do not allow this to get in the way of your assigned tasks because if you're spending all your time doing design work when you were hired to be a programming intern, they're just going to not keep you around. Be willing to stay late if you have to complete these. And make sure your boss knows you're offering to help this group, unless he's, we'll just say that. Let everyone in the job you want know you are actively seeking a mentor, and use the 7 magic words. What are they? Can I take you to lunch sometime? Make sure that people, if it's a possibility they might confuse it, that they know it is not a date. These are the magic words you ask pretty much anybody, and no one's going to turn you down for a free lunch. I guarantee this. I have had lunch with my favorite actors because of this. And I will say about 95% of the time, maybe 85 depending, if you are a poor intern, even though you should expect to pay for lunch and make sure you take them a place you can afford to pay for both of your lunches, oftentimes people pay for your lunch because they know you're a poor intern. But don't expect it and don't do it for that reason. Rejected with that, here's 7 other magic words. How about just a cup of coffee? Again, make sure they know it's not a date, and this is a great response to the, hey, you don't have time for lunch. I've even said breakfast, dinner, midnight snack. All right, meet the other departments. Let them know who you are, your position on the team, and what you aspire to be someday. If they know this, they might be able to help you. If they don't know what you want to be, they can't help you. Ask a lot of questions about their department and their jobs, because you need to know what other departments are doing. And ask what the communication flow is like between your team and theirs. This is how you make yourself the go-to guy or gal. Ask if there's anything you can do to make it easier for them to work with your team. That goes back to why you're asking about the communication flow. Maybe it's really great, and maybe it's a system that you need to learn so you can do it. Oh, we just submit this process piece online. We just sign these forms. Or maybe it's a huge pain. I've been trying to call people 7 times a day and can't get a hold of anyone. You might, if there are problems, you might end up becoming their point of contact just because you might be the only one they actually know. This is a better thing once you've got a job, but if it happens as an intern, that's going to make you really valuable fast. Check in with your boss before you ever do anything someone in another department requests. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. Here's the major warnings. Do not play office politics ever. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. Do not participate in the gossip. However, in both cases, feel free to listen. It's great knowledge to have. Just don't share gossip. Okay, here's how to create worthwhile work for yourself, so stuff that makes you more valuable. Research your tools. You have no idea how often people are like, oh, I'm going to go program this system because we need this functionality. That happens, it's already buried somewhere in the engine or other tool package that they're using, but nobody had time to find out that it already existed. So by researching, just sitting around and going through the tool manuals and researching what happens and what features, go online if you're using, like, say, Photoshop or Maya. There's videos you can learn to find out how to do it better. You can create documentation. There's always a need for better documentation. You can create a video walkthrough of the game in its current form. That's always useful. Share it out to everybody. You can do a code review if you're on the programming side. People respect that. But don't be a jerk about it. Don't tell somebody, hey, your code sucks. Just say, hey, here's what my interest was. And try to talk to the person who wrote the code specifically about, here's what I was viewing. Can you give me an idea of what you were thinking in this place? Can you help me understand this code? And use your unique skills. So using your unique skills to make yourself indispensable. As an example, I very much like working with people. And I worked at one company where all of my coworkers were fighting with the IT department to the point that there was literally near fisticuffs. People were punching at each other at one point, as well as screaming. So I went out of my way to go talk to the IT department. I talked to my coworkers and found out what both sides of the story was. And I created a committee made up of me and anybody on my coworkers team that wanted to work with it, and then the IT department and their head manager. And I just became the liaison. I'd go talk to them, find out what did the IT department need, what's going on, what are the updates in the system, what are they working on, and then created a newsletter that I sent out to my department and my coworkers so that they knew what was going on with IT. And then I collected requests, questions, and problems that they had, filtered out all the angry language into something that was tactful, and sent that back to IT. So instead of, my bleeping network never works, it was, we're having latency issues with, so this way I was the sanity in between the two, and suddenly all of the fights stopped, and things became a lot smoother. I also got a job one time where I was on contract, and the contract wrapped up a little early because I was really good, and they were going to let me go, but then they decided to extend my contract and move me to a new position because I had gone out of my way to assist someone in a different department, and the manager for that department liked me, and no one else could stand him. So they're like, wow, you're not only good at this, but you actually can talk to him, so we'll move you to this department. So I ended up having a job where I would have otherwise been unemployed simply because I was the only one the manager could deal with and who did the job well. Hour 5. All right, meet the executives. Let them know your position, the team you're on. They may have multiple teams, multiple projects, and what you aspire to be someday. This is always key. Thank them for letting you have this opportunity to work as an intern, and invite them to contact you anytime for assistance. If you have time, tell them that you're happy to take on additional tasks if they have anything they need done. So even they might be able to have something that can give you a little bit more work, and if you impress the CEO like me, hey, you're really good there. Okay. And on exit, make sure you get emails for everyone. Connect with everyone on LinkedIn and or Facebook, especially LinkedIn. Request recommendations from people on LinkedIn. Ask about job openings that would be a good fit for you. If it may not be in this company, that's fine. Ask them to connect you with somebody at another company that may have a job opening that's a good fit for you. All right, here's the controversial part. Before your internship ends, you'll need portfolio pieces. That means taking screenshots and taking video captures. Do this in a way, the reason it's controversial is because you did sign NDAs, you have all these issues. It's one of those things that everybody pretty much recognizes that all the employees do, but that doesn't stop some companies from going after employees in a way, more like firing them if they find out they're doing it, even though they expect the employees coming in and interviewing with them to show them the current work that they're working on. So this has always been kind of a quiet handshake between employers that if you show them a little bit of what you're working on, they understand it's just for this purpose, and they usually won't say anything, but you're probably going to hear a lot of people say you need to do this. Just understand it's something that's a little bit sketchy and dangerous. However, having not done it once, I can tell you it can hurt you in trying to get your next job if you don't have these portfolio pieces to show, pics or it didn't happen. That's kind of what we're talking about. Shameless plug and play. If you want to be an intern, you can contact me at transformentertainment@live.com. We are going to be hopefully pulling in interns in the next few months. And if you really liked the whole zombie slide theme, it was inspired by the AAA game my fiance is working on, which is Ninja Gaiden Z by Tecmo Koei. And like, oh, you're doing zombie apocalypse. I'll do that for my slides. So, all right, it sounds like we are wrapping up. I just wanted to go back and make sure, is there anything important back in here with your coworkers? Yep. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Brandii. We don't currently actually have any questions. We
Okay.
can go ahead and give it a moment. If you want to impart some closing wisdom, then we'll just go ahead and close out with all that awesomeness.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really, the thing is, it's about making sure that you work with your coworkers. Like I said, make sure that you know what their needs are and you are serving their needs. Make sure you pass everything through your boss. If you don't, then you can get into a lot of trouble. But you don't want to be just sitting around. So trying to go out and actively find work, create work if necessary, is the most important thing. And having that accomplishments log. I can't stress that enough. When you go through your exit interview and they want to know basically what did you do, you take out this long list of accomplishments. I'll prioritize it and I'll use cool fonts to show off, here's the top 3 things I did over the past entire year or 3 months. Here's the next 5 that I accomplished. And it's people are going to forget what they did 6 months ago. People are going to forget what they did 2 weeks ago. Oh yeah, I saved the entire project by doing this thing, and then totally forget about it. So the mini reviews and the accomplishments log, more than anything else, these are the 2 things that I say are most important for making sure that you get a job. Making sure that your boss understands what you're doing and that you work well with your boss. That's the next most important thing. Yeah, it's a whole different world to be working with people as opposed to be working in a school where you have set goals and there's lots of flexibility on whether you ship or not.
Excellent advice.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brandii, and thank you all for joining us. Unfortunately, we're out of time.
Yes,
We
thank
do
you
have
all for
more
coming.
sessions. We do have some more sessions coming up. Just check the Watch Live page, and I hope you're all enjoying AltDev Student Summit.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Brandii.